Welcome back to Recap Kickback. I am your host, Chappell, and this is a very special preview podcast for the upcoming season of House of the Dragon on HBO and Max. I am your host again, Chappell, and I will be here joining you all for this conversation about a show that I would say people are very excited to hear us talk about, but very excited to also go on this journey in Westeros. So we are calling this Hot D, the Westeros Kickback. And with me to talk about this world of Game of Thrones, of House of the Dragons, my co-host who has been gone for a while, but she's back. It's Mari Forth. Mari, welcome back.
I'm glad to be back, and from this point forward, you can address me as Maester Mari Forth, because I'm here with the receipts to talk about season 2 of House of the Dragons. I am so excited. If anybody knows anything about me, Game of Thrones is my zhuzh. It's my bag. House of the Dragons is just like right up my alley. I am so excited to get into all of this with you, Chappelle, to get into this new season, to hopefully expose some people who might not be watching it to this show through our commentary, and to hear us talk about this show through our eyes and our perspective. So I am so excited.
Yes, this is going to be so much fun. Mari is a Game of Thrones expert. She likes the books, she likes the show, and I am here in the fantasy world. Basically, this is not my area of expertise at all. I like Game of Thrones until I didn't like Game of Thrones, and shoot me if you're mad about it. But sometimes, at the end was mid at best. I will say that. But House of the Dragon season 1 delivered. It delivered, and because of that, I think that it's only appropriate that we use our expert Mari to her full advantage, Maester Mari, with the receipts. And we're going to talk about season 2 of House of the Dragon as it premieres next week. But we got to get everybody caught up on what we plan on doing here on Recap Kickback and what we do normally. So we talk about media, we talk about music, television, movies, or whatever else comes to mind that we think would be fun. A lot of times we center Black conversations, Black artists, Black authors, actors, art, whatever. We like to make sure that we make space for underrepresented community, basically the Black folks. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see that Mari is Team Black, y'all, and I'm Team Blackity Black. Okay. Because we're gonna make sure we put on for our people. So if you've never been here before, welcome. We talking about them dragons and them thrones, y'all. Hashtag them dragons, hashtag them thrones. Mari, how did you get into this whole world? Because again, I know you like the fantasy stuff. I know you're a vampire girly. You like your stuff. But how did this speak to you to make you want to talk about it here on Recap Kickback?
So it's so funny. It's because my husband, James, who was my boyfriend at the time, was like, "Oh, this show, Game of Thrones, it's about to come on HBO. I think we should watch it." And I'm like, I don't know about that. Like, I was just like, I don't know. Like, Lord of the Rings never really did it for me. Like,
Same.
So I was kind of like, I guess. And then we watched it, and I was like, oh, snap. And Game of Thrones from episode 1 just really pulls you in. Like, if you're here, we're assuming that you've watched Game of Thrones. So full Game of Thrones spoilers, full season 1 House of the Dragon spoilers. But the fact that they in episode 1 tossing Bran out the window, I mean, how can you not come back and figure out what's going on? And then it was just so funny because it just our whole friend group was just swept by Game of Thrones fever, just like a lot of people were back in 2011, I believe it was. And we just happened to be like, hey, everybody come over to our apartment. We're going to watch episode 9 of season 1 of Game of Thrones, which again,
good time. Yeah.
We had so many people in our house and we're just watching. We're like, oh, this is great. And Ned Stark's head comes off. So it's like Game of Thrones, it really truly is been a cultural phenomenon. And once season 1 ended, I was like, okay, now I got to go and read the books. I read the first book. I was like, okay, I'm just going to read the first book. I'm going to not go any further. I read the first book. And I was like, oh my God. Okay, I'll read the second book. And I ended up reading all books. I'm pretty sure by the end of the first season, all the current 5 books were out. Or the 5th book was just coming out, and I told myself I wasn't gonna read them all, and I read them all. And I've at this point I've read the books at least about 3 to 4 times each. Um, for the House of the Dragon book, I've read that book at least 3 times as well, not including reading all of the short stories that pertain to the House of Dragon. I've read those several times as well. So I'm the type of person who, if I'm bored, I will go back and read the Game of Throne books. So it's a world that I did not necessarily think I was gonna be into, and then the moment it hit my veins, I was like, "Give me more." And I'm still like, I still would threaten George R. R. Martin. Like
I
if
was gonna say, yeah. Why
I
haven't you read book 6 yet? What's going on?
It's only been 13 years, and Mr. George R. R. Martin act like he can't freaking put out a book. Anyways, we're gonna get into that later. But
Oh, we definitely
yeah,
gonna talk about him. Yeah.
yeah. I truly do. I love this world and this series, and I'm so glad we get to talk about it. And we'll do it in a way that we will break down everything that we've seen in the show, and then we'll add a little bit of some book spoilers and stuff at the end as well. So for those who have also read the books and stuff like that and who are interested in that. So it's gonna be a fun time, y'all. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I definitely want to approach this for the casual viewer like myself, and then the
Mhm.
diehard viewer like Mari, who who is going to take us to the Maester's book club at the end
Yeah.
of the every at
Very
the end
good.
of every podcast. Yeah, we're gonna have a good time. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, everybody was talking about Game of Thrones, so I had to go see what all the fuss was about. But I am not a fantasy guy. I don't care about
Mhm.
I don't care about them rings. I don't care
Yeah.
about them hobbits. I got into them Hogwarts for a little bit,
We
but I
did,
mean,
yes.
yeah, but that lady, she's awful, and I
Awful. I
refuse to
know.
support anything else she's got going on. So, as as far as I'm concerned, this is my new fantasy,
Mhm. Like
content.
outlet. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I watched Game of Thrones. I think I was a little late, obviously, coming to the party. I probably showed up around season 4 or something like that.
Oh
And
my
so,
gosh.
yeah, so I was like, okay, cool. So I went and binged like everybody else, and then I was
Mhm.
just in time. But then, like I said, I only really in real time watched like two-ish good seasons of television with everybody else before it completely went off the rails. And I was like, y'all, this is not the show y'all promised. This is not the prince that was promised. This is not what I was told I was coming here for,
So around
uh
the time they had to start making shit up because
because somebody
didn't finish.
wouldn't finish
Mhm.
some books. Right,
Yep.
exactly. So I got to about season 6 before I started saying, "Hey, this isn't good. I don't like this."
Yeah.
And yeah, and then again, I was fighting for my life because the throners, the people out here who love them dragons, them thrones, y'all are relentless, okay? Y'all, hey, don't talk about my show. But I'm sorry, Mario. After the
It was
finale of season 8, nobody could deny that we had lost the plot. To me, Maury, the storyline had run stale, okay?
bad.
Because we didn't have no books to go off of. So,
And it's so funny because even the stuff that they did have the books for, they completely changed. So it's like it's really jarring for me as a book reader who knows like some of the unfinished storylines going into book 6 that were completely taken out of the show. It makes me think like, okay, if they seriously did stick to the rubric that George R. R. Martin gave them, which I really hope they don't. I really hope he completely changed the ending because that ending was ass. It was a 2-pack of ass. So like it makes me think like, so are these characters that I'm getting invested in that are in the book that aren't in the show, are they just not gonna, you know, do anything, you know? It's very interesting, and I don't blame you. I think if I would have watched it like you did, I don't think I would have been as invested as well because I think most of that magic from Game of Thrones comes with watching with people every week from the beginning. Like I said, like our friend group was enraptured with it. Season 1, season 2, season 3, uh some of the best television ever. Season 4 was the gut punch season where niggas started dying.
that part.
And yeah, and so I can't imagine coming in season 4, like seeing like some really good show, like seeing some really good TV, binging one through three. Because people, I don't know if people realize, like when you binge something and then you try and go to a weekly format, it's very hard.
It's tough. It's
It's
tough.
very tough. Yeah. And then once you're going to a weekly format where the quality drops off dramatically, I am not surprised that that was your journey, your journey.
Look, I'll go ahead and say it. It's season 5. It's a season 5 finale. I think when we lose Jon Snow when he dies,
Yeah,
isn't that what that is?
I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I
Oh
was
my
like, dang,
we
this
still
is.
got
I was
3
like,
more seasons after that, didn't we?
right, and I was like, this is cool. Like, Jon Snow gone. I wasn't a big Jon Snow guy, so I was like, cool, bet, let's
For
move
sure.
on. We come back in season, yeah, you know
Mhm.
me. So we come back in season 6, and a couple episodes, people are like, oh yeah, Jon Snow's back, baby. I'm like, okay, let's see what we do with this. And at no point do I enjoy the show at that point. Like I
Mhm.
complete interest in the show from the moment that happens. And it's not because Jon Snow comes back, but it's like the quality difference was noticeable at like it just starts to decline. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think it started off strong. And I think by season 7, I was like, this ain't good no more. And I think
Mhm.
again, because I was such a late adopter of the show, most people I talk to will say like season 8 was bad. They definitively would just say season 8 was bad. A lot of people don't acknowledge that season 7 was bad. And I was beating the drum by
Mhm.
myself. People like, we should have invited you here. You who let
Yeah,
you in? Why are you saying this? I'm like, y'all, there are so many storylines that are just left untouched where I was just like,
it
what
is,
about
yeah.
this? And what about this? And what about this? People like, shut up. Let us have nice things. And so I push through. I wait until everybody sees the finale of season 8 with me because, of course, I'm beating the drum. All the stuff you think that's going to happen in season 8, there's just not enough episodes for it to happen, y'all. Let's be realistic. I don't know Game of
Mhm,
Thrones, but I know
mhm.
television. I know we got 7 episodes left, and y'all just don't got that kind of time. And so we all, basically mourn the loss of the show, the way that it ends. Some people are like, it's fine, blah blah. This ain't the podcast for you because we're gonna definitely tell you it's not fine. But
Mhm.
when House of the Dragon is announced, Mari, I had so much trepidation about even starting it because I was like, man, y'all, I've been literally burned by this show. No pun intended, but I've been burned before by Game of Thrones. Why should I watch House of the Dragon? But I think it was people like you, Mari, who were saying, no, this is going to be based on
It
a
can be
different
better.
book.
Yeah.
Thus, it will be better. And I honestly, Mari, I
It's
think it was.
completed. So
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like I got one I got one of my friends who never watched a single minute of Game of Thrones to watch A House of the Dragons. And so like I think a lot of us came into this, a lot of us book readers, like, no, guys, no. First off, there's dragons from the moment it touches down, like
Them
from
dragons.
them, they're dragons right then and there. And if they know that they're about to film a whole dragon civil war, then they have to put money behind it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so first off, so more dragons. Second off, it's definitely a clearer I personally think it's a clearer storyline because one of the great things about the Game of Thrones books are you get so many perspectives from different people and different sides of the conflict because there's the War of the Five Kings. There's so many conflicts going on in the books, and people have even said this as a downside. There's so many characters that you just can't keep up with, and the
Mhm.
show actually suffers because of that, because like I said, they either take some characters out or they had to restructure characters because it's just so much. House of the Dragons is so more linearly focused that I think it'll appeal to a lot more people, and it's just way easier to follow because it truly is two sides. You know what I'm saying? It's not
Mhm.
this house, this house, this house, this house. I mean, it is house warfare, but these houses are picking a side. It's team black versus team green. Suit up, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So a much linear plot line, and then finally, like I said, it's done. Like it's done. The book is out. Like we know how this conflict itself is done, even though Fire and Blood, the book Fire and Blood is a part one of a two-part history of the Targaryens, and he hasn't done the second part. The conflict itself, the Dragon Civil War, the War of the Dragons, or whatever, the Dance of the Dragons, is contained and finished within part one. So we know how it ends. So thank God, you know, they don't have to make
Yeah,
shit up.
yeah.
and it'll actually, for them, they'll probably have a harder time trying to figure out where to stop. You know what I'm saying?
Mm,
Because this is history. There is an end to the war, but then it's also like, what about reconstruction? What about rebuilding? Like, how far do they go through that? So it's going to be very interesting. The story in itself in the book is really good. And then, okay, one more point. The the book itself is written like a history book, where even the maester who writes it is like, this is history as told, as from a point of view, but we don't know everything. So it's almost like a outline of what could happen, and then the show almost is kind of like fills in the canon, and we saw that in season 1, and I'm pretty sure we'll talk about plot point. But so they've done a really good job in season 1 of not only just following the book and the storyline, but also making you feel like they put a little bit of meat on the bones in some places where the book, it might have been a one-line sentence, and then they expounded it for it on a whole scene or maybe a whole episode. So, whoo, I love this
yeah.
show.
I have so many questions already, and we haven't even talked about nothing yet. Mario,
I
first
know.
thing first, I want to stop down on this African American S you keep putting on the title of the show, House
I
of the
don't care.
Dragon. Dragon.
House of the Dragons. Y'all are lucky I'm putting the in there. It's normally
House
House
of,
of
House
Dragons
of
around
Dragons.
here.
House of Dragons around here. Look, I was like, do I call her out about the S or no? Because now look, again, this is where you came. You came to recap kickback for the Westeros kickback. So if this is them dragons, sometimes them thrones, sometimes House of the Dragons, House of the Dragons, House of Dragons. This is the content you're gonna get here. Mari
Exactly.
has read the book. I've seen the show. We know what the title is, but we're gonna
Yes.
call it what we want to call it because we can deal with it.
You can, yes.
So, Mari, when you talk about the way the book is structured in season 1, I think it was very jarring to me, a purely like television watcher, that from episode to episode, there were so many time jumps. You know, it's
Yeah.
like episode 1, episode 2 is probably like in the same timeline from what I remember. And then there's a big
Yep.
time jump where it's like, oh, wait, there are children here. Okay, well, we've had some kids. They're like, boom. Okay, well, we have another
An
kid on the
even
way.
bigger time jump.
Yeah, and a bigger time. Then all of a sudden we had grown folks, and I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, these aren't even the actresses and actors that I remember anymore. So the book is structured like that as well. It's not like a through line of every year, but it's like it kind of takes you to different eras of
It
dragons.
is. It is. It's exactly structured like that because, like, um, it's and that's how it is. The book stops down on really significant events, but then there's like, especially during Viserys's reign, because it's a reign of peace. So you get significant events, then quote unquote peace where nothing happens for years, and then another significant event. So the significant event of his wife dying, him marrying Allison, and then jump 2-3 years, and he now Aegon is born. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, or Aegon's mature. So it really is like that. And I want to say that I think the show did a really good job of portraying that. Now, again, a portion of your audience is going to be confused, especially if you went into it not knowing, because people like me knew that like there was going to be a time jump in the middle of it. I knew that they were going to switch out the actors and actresses. So if you didn't know that, I could definitely see how jarring that could be. But honestly, people just like pay attention because the show does a good job of at least somebody being like, oh, it's been 10 years. Oh, it's been like they do a really good job of trying to keep you in the timeline. But honestly, you won't have to worry about that for season 2 or anything going forward, because once the conflict kicks off, the Dance of the Dragons, everything that goes down is within a 2-year period. So like we go from covering what I think is at least 15 plus years, close to 20
Easy.
years.
Yeah, close to 20 probably.
Yeah, to everything finna kick off in 2 years. We're about to get 3 seasons within like a 2-year period, depending on where they decide to stop. So yeah, I can see how that could be confusing for people, but honestly, that's how it is, and that's what you would want, because we don't need a meander about like when nothing's happening. It's kind of like the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. It took people forever to walk from this part of the island to the other. And then in season 7 and 8, niggas was just like, oh,
Time
I'm in
jumping.
Dragonstone.
I'm
Now I'm
here.
at the
I'm here.
wall.
I'm
I'm
here.
like,
Look, I was looking for a time jump when it was Arya versus the Waif, and that girl, the Arya number 2, was just beating the hell out of Arya for a whole year.
For a whole,
And and then Arya dropped out of ninja school and only
yep.
used that technique that she learned one time. Like, again, that's where I want to skip ahead. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's yada yada Arya getting her ass beat. How about that? Like, we've seen it a couple times. Let's just pretend we know this goes on for a few months. Nah, we were in every second of those ass beatings. Now all of a sudden, by season 7, boom, 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 you're just everywhere. And so, yeah, it was a little jarring coming into season 1 of House of the Dragon. But I do appreciate, like you said, they do, if you're paying attention, they do stop down and make sure you know that there's been a shift in the timeline a little bit. The other thing that I noticed is that if you're not paying attention, some of these names, Mari, whoa, man, I felt like Webby on the Breakfast Club, like Charlotte McGee, Charlotte, who y'all got some name? Angela McGee, that's how I feel. Because why do we have a Aegon, an Aemon, an Aemon, a Damon, and an Eric, and a Jason? Like,
and another Aegon. Yep.
And another Aegon, and then Joffrey, but we got a Joffrey in Game of Thrones, but we got all the same names cycling in and out. Rhaenys, Queen, what? Yes, niece. We got all that in the same show, and it is hard to keep up with some of these names. Is it easier for you because you read the books, or is it just kind of like you just have to kind of remember the ones that matter the most?
I think it's easy because they fleshed out these characters pretty well, I believe. Now this season coming up, the children are going to be more involved. So that's going to be hard. I understand how that's going to be harder, but I think if they stick with season like they did in season 1, everybody will have their own characteristics, and you'll be able to like keep up. And it's like I can't talk, like my whole half of my family has their names are all Jameses. So it's just like that's how it is. In family, they just, they make names for the same people who are the people and their grandfathers and their grandmammies and stuff like that. So that's that's how it goes. I would definitely say that season 1 they did a good job. I think one of the smartest things they did in trying to delineate the characters was making the Valerians black. Okay.
Yes.
Stick with me here. Because I know a lot of people, we know some people were mad because
boo. Shut up. Stop whining. Right. Black people can be in fantasy too. It's called fantasy. Guess what? We exist. Get over it.
Because let me tell you, if the Valerians are still in the books, they're saying they have pale hair, violet eyes, just like the Targaryens. They both are houses from old Valyria, so they have those markings. If they did not make these Valerians black, we would definitely not be able to tell who is who, because you would have had more white people with blonde hair running around.
Correct.
And we would have all had to try and figure them out. So let's say thank you to whoever thought of putting black people with platinum blonde wigs, even though those wigs were bad.
The raggedy wigs.
Let's hope season 2 they got a higher wig budget.
The money go up in season 2 on most of our shows, Mari. The wigs be different. I'm looking at you, housewives.
Right. So I think that was smart. And I think it was smart for, again, people who are like, I don't want to call a portion of the audience not very bright, but I think it definitely helps when we get to the portion of like Rhaenyra's kids are not the kids of Sir Laenor, because they're white. Let's be real.
That baby don't look like him. That baby does not look like him. Exactly.
and not to mention just like the black hair and the dark eyes. When if they're of Valerian and a Targaryen, they should come out with the light hair and the pale eyes and stuff like that. But I thought it was genius. I think it was so genius. And then on top of that, the actors are just amazing. Corlys Velaryon, who will play a pivotal role in this season and in the Dance of the Dragon, it's going to be great. So I think they did a good job of trying to make it easier for us to delineate all the different characters.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it like that, this is something that, of course, I'm looking for somebody to explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old in episode 1, because I'm too busy arguing online with people like, why are there black people in Westeros? I'm like, boom, shut up. And so I'm doing that so much that I can't even focus on the fact that, like, oh yeah, these people are from a very different portion of the world, right? Because they have the same hair.
Mhm.
So at first I was like, they had black Targaryens. That's so cool. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh wait, Valeria, bet. I get it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And so for me, this is not my realm. So I'm not used to random different countries and different people popping
Mhm.
up that look similar and stuff. So very much give me the separation and let me know that that's who they are and that's why they look different. And I think that's so cool. Like you said, I think it's genius.
Mhm.
Because I'm partial to my look. We be rooting for everybody black, okay? Like
You
let's
do.
call it what it is. So I'm
Yes.
partial to my Valerians anyway. I'm like, yes,
Anyway.
King, yes, yeah,
Yeah.
already. So I was very excited to see a little representation in this show. It didn't hurt nobody, and it actually enhances the show. Mari, you've mentioned a few of the characters, but I do think we have to talk about the main ones. We have to get really outlined. For the people who are
Yeah.
new here, maybe you're just jumping in or trying to figure out our style of recap. Maybe you just like to digest as much House of the Dragon / Game of Thrones content as possible, or maybe you were just looking for some black folks to talk about it. Well, guess what? That's what we're
Hey.
about to do. So, we have basically a dragon civil war coming, the dance of the dragon, and we have our competing sides. We have Team Black and Team Green. Now,
Mhm.
Mari, I know you are Team Black. So
Yes.
why don't you go ahead and give me the rundown of, like, I guess what Team Black is and how we got to this point for their point of view in House of the Dragon.
Yeah. So if you watch season one, uh, we start with King Viserys. Well, they do a really good job in that flashback of talking about the Great Council, where they convene a Great Council to pick between Viserys and King and Queen Rhaenys, who
Rhaenys.
is Rhaenys, yeah, who is the wife of Corlys Velaryon. In the Great Council, they try to decide who should get the crown passed to them because King Jaehaerys had no more direct heirs. So Viserys was like his like grandson through his daughter or something like that. And then but Rhaenys was like I don't even know, but
Like his
she had
niece.
yeah, his niece.
Yeah.
Like she actually technically had a stronger claim than Viserys. She was closer in blood. But the Great Council voted for Viserys to get the crown because, penises and all of that. Because
Dicks.
yeah, because he was a man. And Viserys is ever since this moment, he's ruling Westeros and he basically just wants peace. That is his great fault and his great strength and his great fault. He just wants peace. And because of that, he knows he needs to secure his line of succession. Unfortunately, he only has a daughter, which is Queen Rhaenyra. I mean, Princess Rhaenyra. And even though he's still trying to produce a male heir, we know because of the prince that was promised prophecy, that's why he's so invested in having a male heir. Unfortunately, his wife Queen Aemma dies in childbirth.
Dies. That's a
Yeah,
strong word. Dies during childbirth is a strong way of putting this man murdered his wife to have a male heir. I mean, because he
yes,
tore his body apart, not
yes,
only physically at the end, but prior to that. Mari, I think they said that woman had at least 9 or 10 failed
yeah.
pregnancies or stillbirth. Like her body.
Miscarriages. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and she had lots of failed pregnancies because again the blood is very close. Even though she is of the Vale, she's an Aaron of the Vale. She also, I think they shared a grandsire.
Mm,
Yeah, so the blood is close. So the babies aren't. They don't.
yeah. You know how that
Yeah,
go. Looking at you, Alabama.
exactly. And
Hmm.
right. And so, yeah, she dies in childbirth after they do a emergency C-section, and he had a male heir. Yeah, he had a
Hmm.
male heir, but the baby dies as well. So, at this point, Viserys just wants to secure the line of succession. He doesn't want his brother, Prince Daemon here, who will be an integral part. He doesn't want Prince Daemon to be his heir. I mean, he kind of does, but his council doesn't. And
Hmm.
so, and because Daemon does some stupid shit, like
Damon sucks. He sucks. He's the worst. Now, mind you, for several episodes, Mari, I was like, I don't like this Damon guy. They're right. He doesn't need to. But the stuff he pulled out with the crab man, I said, all right. let him cook. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you have to bend the knee a little bit after he pulls some cool stuff like that out of his head. I was like, all right, David, I see you, boy. He's kind of that guy. You know what I'm saying?
Damon is such a great character because he's such a morally gray character, because he does some stupid shit, but he does do it in service of his family. It's all about just being wanting to be of service to his family. But he's also like a dick, so it's very funny. And he's one of those characters that as it goes on, you're just always going to be like either rooting for him or rooting against him. If you want some more, if you don't mind spoilers and you want a book, a short story about Damon and what he goes through during the Dance of the Dragons, you can check out The Rogue Prince. It's a short story that George R. R. Martin printed a while ago, but it talks about all of his endeavors leading up to the Dance of the Dragons. But because Damon is just so unpredictable, Viserys sees fit to claim Rhaenyra as his heir. So he claims Princess Rhaenyra as his heir. He has the whole kingdom come and swear fealty to her while she's only 15 at this time, and everybody in the realm say they accept it while he's here. Okay, two problems, right? He goes on to stay on the throne for another 20 years or so, right? Something to that effect. And then he decides to marry Rhaenyra's best friend, Queen, who becomes Queen Alicent. And this is the major focus and feud throughout season one, because Alicent, through no fault of her own, really put up to it by her father, Lord Otto Hightower. She becomes the queen. She does produce male heirs for Viserys, and it puts Viserys in a not great position because now he has male heirs, but he had already said that Rhaenyra was his heir, and because he doesn't want to make the choice, because he flip flops, and because of the misogyny of it all, Rhaenyra, once he dies, it's a civil war because Rhaenyra, even though Rhaenyra is the proclaimed heir, some people think they want to follow the rule of progeny, which is because he has male heirs. Plus, like I said, it's been 15, 20 plus years since those people swore fealty. So a lot of those houses, the people who swore fealty are not ahead of those houses anymore. Those men have died. Those great men have died. So their sons, their brothers, their nieces, their nephews who never swore that fealty don't feel like they have to abide by it. On top of the Hightowers being a very influential family who can, do you want to go up against the Hightowers or not? So that all leads to where we're at, it's a civil war because Princess Rhaenyra, who has now said she is Queen Rhaenyra, her throne she feels like was usurped, and she's the Team Black, by Aegon, who is Viserys and Alicent's oldest son. He is proclaimed king and has a coronation at the Dragon's Pit in front of the town folk, and he's in King's Landing. He has all the trappings of the kingdom. He has the sword, he has the crown, he has the people, he has the seat, he has the throne. So it's and that's Team Green. So that's the major conflict here. It's a lot of names. Maybe we can find like a chart or something for when we break down each episode.
We'll do some visuals or something like that.
Yeah,
like a family tree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I love hearing about Team Black, right? Because I think that it is a very compelling story. Like you said, it's really the patriarchy and misogyny that's keeping this woman from having the role that essentially her cousin should have had, right? That Rhaenys should have had.
Exactly.
And so this is Viserys' chance to right that wrong. And at first, I don't think he cares. It's none of his business. That's not tradition. That's not the rule of the land. But then the insistence by his only daughter, right, to like, Dad, like this is my right. You don't have another heir. You murdered my mom trying to get one. It's just me. I'm right here. I can do this. And he does feel a certain level of loyalty to his daughter. Like, hey, I'm not gonna just throw you to the wolves, But one thing I would say about Viserys is that his ass, he's so peaceful that he can't do shit.
Mhm.
Viserys'
Yep.
ass doesn't do anything in season 1 but waffle the entire time.
Mhm.
He tries to please
Mhm.
both sides the entire time. He tries to give a little bit to Alicent in the High Towers. He tries to give a little bit to Rhaenyra, but he never makes any concrete decisions, to the point where in one of the pivotal moments in the season, we have some question about who he even has selected as the heir here, because we've seen him announce that Rhaenyra will obviously be here, but then we do get a scene of him talking to Alicent about the Song of Ice and Fire and all this other stuff, and where he thinks it's one person he's talking to, but maybe he's talking to somebody else. Maybe he meant Aegon, maybe he said Aemon, maybe he said David, who knows? But he waffles so much that by the end of this, people are mistakenly believing that, yeah, he said it was me, or maybe he said it was you. But I think I would like to believe he said it was me. So now we're in charge. And all that to say, I got a good hate into Viserys in season 1, but
Yeah.
I never disliked Rhaenyra, and I always understood where she was coming from when it came to her claim for the throne. But Mari, I think I'm Team Green. I think I'm Team Green.
What?
Now I'm always Team Blackity Black. But I do think there's something very telling about the story that Alicent has throughout season 1, where her dad does tell him, like, hey, go make nice with the king, see what happens. He's looking for, he needs a wife. He needs some, you might be able to get him some sons. That'd be cool. And so she goes in there. She's a little girl. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the Game of Thrones, House of Dragon community. Yeah, we don't even gotta say it's unacceptable. Stop sleeping with kids, stop sleeping with your cousins, stop sleeping with your niece, stop sleeping with your daughters. Don't marry your son to your daughter, don't marry your 2-year-old to a grown woman. These are things that we don't have to explain. Right? But Alicent does go in there. She eventually wins the admiration of the king, to where he does decide to marry her, put some babies in her, gets a bunch of sons, honestly. And there is the point where, from Alicent's point of view, I did everything correctly. I did everything the way I was supposed to do it. The king chose me. The king now I have my kids. They're blonde because they actually are his kids. That's what he brought us, blonde children, because they're Targaryens. It makes sense. So yeah, why wouldn't I be the person who you look to as, these are the heirs, right? Like, I am the queen, thus my kids are next in line. And she looks at that also while seeing the counterpoint that Rhaenyra is out here doing some things that are unseemly of someone of nobility, such as, going to brothels with their uncle, potentially losing their I don't know, their purity to their uncle, but also instead backdooring and losing their purity to a knight,
who swore chastity. Yeah.
who swore chastity, and then also, lying about it to the one person who's really vouching for them, which is Alicent. And so when I look at it through that point of view, it's really hard for me not to be Team Green, because I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, there's some shicey stuff going on both sides, but I think, honestly, Mari, if I had to pinpoint the moment I thought I was Team Green, it's when Alicent finds out about Rhaenyra lying about her purity. We see Sir Kristen Cole going in and just folding like a damn lawn chair.
Oh my God.
Just like a wet towel, just like just fold it over. Alicent basically asked, like, hey, you heard the rumors about Rhaenyra and her uncle? Wouldn't it be crazy if she was out here having sex or something before marriage? That'd be crazy, right? Like, nobody would want to marry her. And he's like, it's me. I did it. I slept with her. It was crazy. She came on to me, but Lord, I did it too. And I didn't even, you know what? I should just kill myself. She's like, wait, hold on, pause. Before you do that.
She's like, wait, what?
Oh, yeah, don't slow down. And she makes this grand entrance during the announcement of Rhaenyra and Laenor's wedding. And so she comes in and she's late, first of all, which is already kind of tacky because, ma'am, what are you doing? But, of course, her weak ass husband, Viserys, is like, sometimes people be late to these kind of things. It's fine. She shows up in the middle of his speech. And to this point, Alicent ain't really gave clue that she has this kind of edge to her, right? Like, she's kind of been a little passive throughout, but she opens the door and you just see her standing in the doorway with this long ass green dress, and people like, oh, oh, it's game time. Because
Yeah.
prior to this, we had been seeing all these people who are loyal to Viserys and the House Targaryen and saying, okay, yeah, fealty, here you go. You chose Rhaenyra. It's treason for us to push back against it too much, so we just got to go with it. But then you see Alicent walk in, and she's now declaring war essentially by wearing this green dress, saying, nah, I think my house actually has claim to it. And from that moment on, I think that's where I was like, let's get the party going. Let's see more of this. So I'm kind of leaning Team Green now, Mari.
So okay. So this is where Team Black versus Team Green comes from. So when Alicent makes that grand gesture in the green dress and she sits next to Viserys in the books, that's where it goes because but of course they change it in show because it's supposed to be a wedding. Rhaenyra is wearing white, but in the books she's wearing her blacks of her house, and so this is where we get when she sits next to Viserys. It's Team Green versus Team Black. They said from that moment on, the kingdom is divided, even though silently. Like it's like this is where the Cold War starts, right? This is where the Cold War starts, yeah. And we get our Team Green and our Team Black. So it all comes down to Alicent being a hater. Like
she is a mega hater.
I understand she has a lot in life that she did not want. And I think the actress who was in the younger actress in season 1 did a phenomenal job of
so
really portraying this, like seeing her like absent-mindedly patting the back of her children. Like she was all about duty. She did what she was supposed to do, like you said. And honestly, you're right. Because it's for nothing, right? She marries the king, she bears him all these children, but her children don't inherit the throne. Like, then why am I here? What was the point of all of this? And
what was the reason?
What was the reason? And I can see why her as a mother want to protect her kids. And Otto kind of uses that against her. Like, okay, if Rhaenyra comes to the throne, you better hope that she protects
doesn't
you.
murder your children.
And any mother is gonna do what's best for their children. And I get that from her point of view and from a sympathetic point of view, and I understand why you would want to root for them. However, but her son Aegon, the oldest, the one who would actually inherit the throne, is a horrendous piece of shit.
Yeah, he sucks. He's the worst.
Not only is he wouldn't be a bad ruler. He says several times he doesn't even want to be a king. But he's a drunkard. He's a rapist. He rapes all the servant women around him, and he's just a horrendous person who's not fit for the throne. So even though even Alicent barely likes him, to be quite honest.
No, she hates him. She's like, you're no son of mine, damn it. It's like, stop acting like this. Stop being weird.
Right. So like, even though I feel bad for Alicent, I don't want her son on the throne because he can't rule anything. But that's the whole thing. If he's on the throne, he wouldn't be ruling it, right? It'd be Alicent, it'd be Otto, it would be the Hightowers. It would be their ilk. It wouldn't be him. As opposed to Rhaenyra, who spent her whole life being groomed for the crown, and who, up until certain like at least in the whole first season, who we feel like has at least made great choices when it comes to ruling. Like we saw how she was able to get that dragon's egg from Daemon, and quell tensions between Daemon and Viserys so many times. You know what I'm saying? She has shown a good capacity to lead. One of the major points, releasing Laenor from their wedding vows without actually killing him. It's great, great moment. So we see that she can be, or at least from the audience's point of view, we feel like she could be a great queen. So it's why like a lot of people do declare for Team Black, because a lot of people can also feel, can also resonate with something that was yours being taken away from you just because of your gender. You know what I'm saying? So I agree. Team Green it's really funny, right? Because a lot of people don't like them because they just seem so shisty,
They are very shisty.
They're so shisty. And then we didn't talk about
showing feet.
Yes, exactly. Like showing feet in the
chat room, right?
So like it's so funny because there's that is the great thing about this Dance with the Dragon. All of the characters, and honestly, even though I want to slap him up beside his face, George R. R. Martin does a great job of really writing morally great characters. There's hardly ever any clear cut bad guys or good guys, hardly ever. But there are some, and I think that's why I will tell everybody during the course of the Dance with the Dragons, you will probably go back and forth between Team Black and Team Green.
Yeah, there are definitely moments where, like I said, I'm leaning Team Green, but it's really hard because her kids suck. So
All of her
before,
kids suck.
yeah,
And then all of Rhaenyra's kids are like really nice. It seems
right,
like
and also Rhaenyra's kids are great, and also Rhaenyra's kind of like she's lined up with my people. Like
right.
Rhaenys likes her, so I'm like I'm
Yeah.
going wherever Rhaenys is going. That's my
Yeah.
girl. Yeah, I'm like yes,
Mhm.
niece, every
Yeah.
time. And so yes, the stage is set. But there is one conflict that I do want to highlight that kind of like really puts a cap on season one. It's
Mhm.
these damn children. It is
Ugh.
the kids. It is Aemon, Aegon, and all these other little mofos.
Yeah.
Because here's where I start to shift away from Green. When when Alicent's child goes in and he steals that black woman's dragon, I was really like, you know what? Honestly, that really got me because I think the dragon's name is Vagar. It's
Vhagar.
the biggest dragon they
The
have, right? It's
oldest
the
and biggest
biggest
one.
one, the oldest one, and it's ruled by this black queen, the like everything is right. And I'm
Lena.
like, bet Raina's here. This is perfect. Now, what was it? Is it Lena? Lena's here, right?
So yeah,
Now,
so Lena was Corlys and Rhaenys' daughter, and the fact that we didn't get her taming Vhagar in the first
right?
season kind of sucks. But once her and Daemon marry, we see her riding Vhagar, the oldest living dragon,
Yeah,
and
big
she
bad.
dies in childbirth, which is a through line here
Mm-hmm.
in the show. And
Stop fucking
because
your cousin.
yeah. Well, technically for them, yeah, they had, they have
Oh,
their blood ties are way
yeah,
further than some of the other ones. But yeah, so she died, so Vhagar is now riderless. And
yeah.
season 1 kind of made it seem like I think it was Baela. She has two
She was
kids,
a bit next
Baela.
up.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Baela and Rhaena, I believe, are her 2 kids. Baela is dragonless. Oh god, the book people might come for me. But anyways, she thought that she was gonna get Vhagar, but dragons aren't inherited through hereditary. You have to, you know, step to them. You have to make a connection. And Aemond, the second son of Alicent and Viserys, makes the play for Vhagar and wins.
And wins. And that's why I said I got a good hate into him because I was like, wait a
Mhm.
minute, hold on. That was that little black girl's dragon. Okay,
Yeah,
that was hers, her mama dragon. Like you didn't give
how
her a
dare
chance
you.
to go shoot her shot.
Mhm.
I really was like, all right, cool. I might be team black again. Well, again, blackity black.
Mighty Black.
But we get some conflict there. He loses an eye in the conflict. Thus we see Alicent really shift at that point. And I think that's the moment where the protective mama bear Alicent jumps out, and we see not only is she protecting her kids, but also she's a mega hater. So she's kind of looking at everybody like Rhaenyra cannot keep getting away with this. She just
She
can't keep getting
can't
away.
get away with this.
Right, like she can't, what I'm saying? Like, how is she going to be queen? Her kids doing wild stuff. They kid chop my kid's eye out. Like, bro, we ain't even gonna get one of her kids' eyes. And I'm like, Alicent, you really think that's gonna fix
Like,
anything?
calm down.
Like,
Yeah.
bro, chill. But in that, we see what ultimately is going to be such a big deal is that now Alicent's side has a huge dragon, has a
Yeah.
gigantic dragon that he's gone and basically just stolen out of right from underneath the other side. So we get this big moment where where I mean my whole heart stops where we see these kids are going back and forth. There's some bullying going on. It's a tit for tat.
Mhm.
We looks like one of Alicent's kids is about to kill. It gets hot here,
Mhm.
and Vhagar attacks. And when Vhagar attacks, he murders. He murders Rhaenyra's son, right? Her
Yeah, second son,
youngest son,
Lucerys.
her second
Second
son,
son.
Lucerys. Yeah. Murders Lucerys and the dragon.
Mhm.
And I think from here, there's no going back. There's no compromising or
No.
anything because your kid killed my kid, and there will never be a way we can even the score here. And now we have Dance of the Dragons coming soon, and we have dragons on both sides.
Mhm.
Mari, I remember watching that scene and my mouth just being on the floor because I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is what we about to do. Because this is the setup for the Civil War, right?
This is the finale. Yes, this is what really kicks everything off. I mean, even at this point they have quote unquote usurped her throne, and even Rhaenyra is sitting here still trying to think like, she's considering taking the deal that Sir Otto gives her. She really did seem like she was considering. She wasn't in a rush to go to war. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But this is the moment that there's just no going back. And how they did this with the fight in the sky, and then Rhaenyra receiving the news and her turning around and that being like the final shot of the whole season. I mean, I was like, "Ooh, this about to get spicy."
Yeah.
But that it also goes to show you that these writers do not control these dragons, you know?
Right.
Because even though Aemon is on Vhagar and Lucerys is on Taraxes or Arax, one of the two. These dragon names, like we said,
It's too
we'll
much.
come back and we'll get
Yeah.
them in the episodics. But like
Yeah.
they they're flying, and all of a sudden the dragons kind of go into business for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
um I'm pretty sure it's like Taraxes. We'll see. Taraxes
Mm-hmm.
like throws flame at Vhagar when Lucerys doesn't command him to. So Vhagar gets pissed off, and Vhagar's like, okay, so this is what we finna do. And
Right.
Aemon
And,
can't control Vhagar. Yeah, and they're
mm-hmm.
both on their dragons trying to control their dragons, and they can't, their dragons can't be controlled. And Vhagar chomps them up, spits them out, and now it's on. Now it is on. And this is where we will, I mean, I don't know, like I don't want to get into spoilers. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you.
Yeah.
But this
We'll
is
wait.
this is where, yeah, this is where the dance kicks off. This is where we're gonna open the season. All I'm gonna say is Happy Father's Day. It's gonna
Ah!
be a bloodbath. So yeah.
Yes, and I'm so excited to get to that bloodbath.
Mhm.
The things that you got to remember about House of Dragon and Game of Thrones, that anybody can get it. If you haven't
Yeah.
read the book, you can be shocked by what happens next. The main character can go.
Mhm.
We really get away from that at the end of Game of Thrones. Just saying, but at the beginning, anybody can get it. Things happen, people die, moves are being made. It's all underhanded. Nobody has a moral high ground on anybody in this show. I mean, it just is what it is. It's tit for tat. It's politics. It's war, and
Mhm.
people will die in the meantime. And honestly, we're here. We're sat. We are sat for that. We are here for that because this is
Mhm.
season 2, and I'm very excited to see where we go. So for the book readers, of course, we're gonna have Mari really kind of outlining some of the things at the end of all of our podcasts, where Mari comes in and all right, here's how it went down in the book. Here's some differences.
Right.
We're gonna contrast those things, and you're gonna
Yeah.
lace us up on what we've been missing, right?
Exactly. Like we won't go too spoilery too far in the future or anything like that. We'll just fill in some gaps if there are some gaps. We don't know if there are some gaps from the episode that the book might shed some light. Knowing a little bit from what the book shed some light on, then we'll do that. But if it's pretty true to form, maybe we won't need to. But yeah,
Mhm.
don't worry. So if you're not adverse, if you're really adverse to spoilers and you're like, I don't want to know what's going to happen, I'm telling you now, I'm not going to just outright be like, well, this happens,
Mhm.
unless something like crazy, like unless they kill a character when they're not supposed to die,
Yeah, we'll let you know.
we yeah, we'll let you know. Yeah, it'll just be a section to give you a little bit more insight if you wanna know what a book reader would be thinking at that time watching the episode.
Yeah, and it looks like we are greenlit for 8 episodes upcoming. So this will last through June, all the way through August. And so join us here, Recap Kickback for the Westeros Kickback. That's right, Hot D, the Westeros Kickback. Up until August, we'll be talking about the show weekly. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That's Recap Kickback. You can go to recapkickback.com to subscribe, or you can subscribe on our YouTube page. Preferably do both, honestly, because we're going to have a good time. We have a Facebook group as well, facebook.com/Recap Kickback, and we're on all social media platforms at Recap Kickback. So you can hit us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all the things in order to be a part of our Recap Kickback community, because we took a vote. We went to the polls. We put out a Twitter poll. We put out an Instagram poll and a Facebook poll. And the overwhelming response was that you wanted House of the Dragon coverage and you wanted it covered by us. And so we're going to bring that to you all season. In the meantime, Mari, is there anything else we need to touch on before we go?
No, nope, nothing else. I can't wait to get into this. We'll see y'all in a week, and it's gonna be on. Like, come back, listen to us talk about this show. It's gonna be amazing.
Yes, come back. And then also check out some of our other coverage we have on Recap Kickback. This podcast started this year, but we have not missed a beat. We're very happy to have our very own Mari back with us to cover one of the shows that I know she's been dying to talk about, but we've also talked about other shows as well. We recently talked about Act Your Age on Netflix. We covered Abbott Elementary and Summer House Martha's Vineyard on an episodic basis. We've covered the Black Twitter documentary, Challengers, the movie. You name it, we cover it here on Recap Kickback, or we'll be at a point in the direction of somebody who can cover it. But yeah, join the community and be a part. We'd love to have you here. And make sure you leave in the comments whatever thoughts you're thinking, because we'll address it on the podcast. You can also email us at recapkickback@gmail.com. But for Mari and for myself, listen, it's going to be a fun time. Whether you're Team Black, Team Green, or Team Blackity Black, we'll be here to discuss this amazing show, and hopefully a lot more coming your way in the near future. Until then, and until next time, peace.